She deserves it. Taking care of your three random capitalized, uncapitalized, random letters. That sums up the entirety of Apple's practices. We just kind of work well with that. A lot of people do that actually go on and look at the patent versus the state. That's not good at all.
Check, check, check.
Checking. 1, 2, 3.
Check, check, check. It's
Check.
okay, you don't have to be quiet yet. We're just checking.
Okay. Yep, that's working.
We're
Okay.
good, we're good. All right.
Should I check?
But it must have been it's all based.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your 10-minute warning. That is a 10-minute warning. Thank you.
How does that work?
Testing 1, 2.
I could see myself doing this if it's like an immersive thing, right? Because that's the point.
Testing.
Testing.
This is your 5-minute warning. I repeat, this is your 5-minute warning. Thank you.
German maps. Like you would
We are now at a 2-minute warning. I repeat, 2-minute warning. Thank you.
Well, I remember the improv show. Yeah, the improv show I watched was like the funniest thing. Really fun. And I went to that like regular show, and it wasn't as funny.
From Kenya to Colombia, from Iraq to Korea, in slums, schools, in prisons, and in theatres, every day people gather at TEDx events around the world to hear the best ideas bubbling up in their communities. Today, you are part of a global conversation about our shared future. So what is this TEDx? TEDx is an initiative of the TED Conference, a non-profit devoted to ideas worth spreading. We grant free licenses to allow So please make sure to thank the team of volunteers who worked so hard on today's event. It's their ideas, dedication, and time that made it all possible. It's they who booked all the speakers, and the views you'll hear today are, of course, those of those speakers, not necessarily of TEDx. But we hope their talks spark an exciting conversation among you. This is a day for curiosity and for skepticism, for openness and for critical thinking, for inspiration and for action. The more you enter into it, the more you'll take out. And now, on with the show.
Hello, and welcome to our first ever TedxYouth at Moncton event. My name is Branwen, and I am the chair of the TedxYouth at Moncton committee. Can we fix that? Thank you.
That would be my mic, apparently.
Oh, okay then.
So yes, we can.
Okay, so I am the chair of the TedxYouth at Moncton committee, and I am also one of your MCs for tonight.
And I'm Chris Daly. I am the chair of the TedxMoncton committee and your other MC.
Tonight is a night to celebrate and recognize the driven and talented youth of our community. A night to truly listen to their ideas and thoughts. But before we get in, I need to take a moment to thank our sponsors. Brilliant Labs. CBC. Brain Diesel. And Aurora Productions. I would also like to thank our amazing group of volunteers: Justin Ryan, Jamie Fleet, Dan McLaughlin, Bianca Gibson, Ethan Morrison, Corbin Gibson, and Ibrahim Khan.
We also need to thank Northrop High School for allowing us to hold this event here. A youth event is very different, so they have been kind enough to give us the space essentially for free, which makes a big difference for us. We need to thank Birchmount School for giving us a lot of space during our prep time because we held all of our workshops there. And the Anglophone East School District for helping us spread the word about this amazing event. We also need to thank our amazing committee. This event takes a lot of hours and time, and especially although several of us have been on the committee for a couple of years, there is a whole new learning curve to having a youth event and by being able to mentor some of our youth ambassadors. So it's been a learning curve for us as well. So thank you so much to the committee who I would be insane without. Last but not least, let's get through a little bit of housekeeping. For anyone that hasn't already found them, the washrooms are just up and to the right on our main level. We do ask that you don't do any flash photography for the evening. We do have a videographer and a photographer that will be taking photos. Photos are fine, just no flashes, please. We do ask that you don't do any videotaping. We do have an official videographer for our TED event, and TED does ask us to only post full edited videos for our event. We also ask that during intermission, you take a chance to visit our booths if you haven't already. Some of them are our wonderful sponsors. Some of them are excellent opportunities for learning. And one that you haven't seen yet, even if you've looked at the booths, has been inspired by one of our speakers and is a great interactive opportunity. As much as we are excited to have you all here, and we could not host this event without you, the main purpose of a TEDx event is to provide for our speakers who have worked so hard a final product of an edited video that will then get posted on the actual YouTube online for the TED speakers. So, as part of that process, we will be introducing them. They will be then coming to the red carpet, and we will then do a countdown. We ask that you hold your applause, and then as I do a countdown, which will sound like this, speaker in 5, 4, 3, 2, and we will then applaud so that we will have that as part of their video of welcoming feeling for them to start their video off. So, without further ado, we would like to talk just quickly about the fact that TedxMoncton not only puts on an amazing yearly event, but we also put on salon events. So a salon is a little bit different than our main events. We have already taped TED Talks that we show. They could be TED Ed, they could be Main TED, they could be TEDx. But it's a more interactive format, so we get to sit down after each video and actually talk with the other participants and share our ideas. We do invite you to join our mailing list. We have an opportunity to do that at the front, or go on to our Facebook, follow us there, and come and join us at the salon events, which we hold at the venue center, yes. The Ven, that's what it's called. Sorry, the Ven Center. And it is a really great opportunity. We are actually one of the most active TEDx groups here in the Maritimes for sure, and across Canada. So we actually encourage you, if you're interested in volunteering or helping out at all, please let us know, because we're always looking for help. We would now like to welcome Jonah Brewer, host of Information Morning Moncton on CBC Radio 1. CBC is the official media partner of TedxMoncton, and they have been incredibly supportive with all of our speakers. So we do want to welcome her. Jonah, it is lovely to see you. We're so glad to have you here. I do have a lovely gift for you.
Oh,
but
thank you.
I will hold it backstage for you so you don't have to hold on to it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much again to you and to CBC.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, and I am so looking forward to hearing the youth speakers. One of them was on our show this week, and if her passion is any indication of what we're about to hear tonight, we are all in for an incredibly inspirational evening. So thank you for the invitation from the organizers. I'm really, really pleased to be here.
So I have a few questions.
Sure.
Why do you think storytelling is important?
Well, I'm going to start with a quote from a writer who I really admire, Canadian Indigenous author and journalist Richard Wagamese. He once wrote, "We are story, all of us. What comes to matter then is the creation of the best possible story while we're here. You, me, us, together. We change the world one story at a time. And I think, Brandon, the power of stories is sort of at the core of what we do at the CBC and what TEDx is all about. I mean, we really are all storytellers, including the inspiring youth we're going to hear from this evening. You know, stories connect us, they connect communities, and I'm thinking about the stories on homelessness that we have done in the past year. I mean, those discussions were ignited by a crisis, but it was the voices of the homeless, the voices of the most vulnerable in our community that is really what is leading to change. So it's important to hear those voices, and we are really happy to provide you know, a place where those voices could be heard. We still have a long way to go, obviously, but I think progress is being made. So those kinds of stories, you know, they create understanding, they foster empathy, they broaden our perspectives. And when they share those stories, I think it motivates all of us to make the world a better place, as Richard Wagamese said, you know, one story at a time.
So what do you think brings a good story to life?
Well, I think at the heart of the stories we tell and the stories that are shared through TEDx is of course, you know, the people. And I'm thinking of interviews that I do on our program. It's people that are struggling with challenges, and when they have the courage to share those stories, I'm always amazed by someone who hears those stories. They reach out with an offer to help. Or if there's someone who has overcome a challenge through, you know, hard work of their own, and someone who might be dealing with something similar hears that story, and that inspires them to make their lives better, or to reach out for help. And I think, you know, we all strive to do better. We strive to make our lives better. We strive to make our communities stronger, but none of that would be possible without connecting with each other. So just coming back to tonight, our speakers, while very young, I'm so impressed by the experiences that they are bringing to the topics that they are presenting tonight, and the ideas that they are so eager to share. You know, they put a lot of hard work into, you know, thinking of the topics, of the issues that they want to present. They've worked very hard at putting those together and practicing them, and you know, reflecting those experiences. And I think those lived personal experiences is what we're talking about, what it makes to bring a story to life. So I'm going to turn the tables and ask you a question, Branwen. So what do you think is important about tonight's topic, sustainability?
Well, sustainability, though it may sound dramatic, is kind of what keeps us together. Without sustainability and education, people aren't qualified to do the jobs that we are so dependent on. Without sustainability and finances, people drown in debt, and we see rises in homeless populations. Without sustainability in mental health and support for those people, we see spikes in mental illnesses, both in youth and in adults. It's just things like this that are really important to our society. And I think that sustainability is really at the core of all of that.
Okay, well said. So CBC had the pleasure to sit down and meet 5 of the youth about the topic of sustainability and sort of what it means to them. So before we meet them on stage, we'd like to introduce them to you by way of a video that we have put together.
I'm terrified, honestly. I think that the way the Earth is going,
if nothing stops it, there's not going to be a future for me.
The change needs to happen before I'm even old enough to have a job.
The theme this year is sustainable lifestyles, and I think this is a great idea because the youth are the building blocks for the future. My TEDx talk is about how the motivation of our youth is being negatively affected and what they can do to change that for themselves. I think without motivation, it's very difficult to make any sort of progress in any big problems like saving the planet.
My TEDx talk is about how art can play a very important role in the climate crisis. I don't actually like poetry that much, but all of a sudden I wrote this poem, and yeah, it's just sort of like came to me and I just wrote it down. I wasn't really thinking about it that much. And it's sort of like a poetry slam, so you say it.
Life is suffering as a kind human, animal, or plant, so don't you dare tell me you think that you can't.
My poem is called Today to Tomorrow.
I think art can speak very loudly about culture or about problems around the world, and it can inspire or it can show despair, and it can just do absolutely anything. The only limits are the artist's mind.
Educating girls is the key to sustainability, which is what my TEDx talk is about. Half of us are girls, and educating girls is the key to changing the world.
Death is a business. There's a funeral industry. Really, a lot of the stuff we're doing now is not sustainable for our environment. There are options to go without a coffin, without embalming. These very simple things that can make huge differences.
My generation can make it better by first being aware, because a lot of us don't know what's going on around the world. So that getting educated is the first part, and from there, actually making a physical change.
I'm talking about is how to sustain success, basically. How to sustain being the best you over time, and how to continue adapting to the world around us. Youth today definitely have more anxiety than the past, not only because we do face that pressure that people want us to be better. We have technology now, so we can't disconnect from our work lives, and we can't disconnect from the world around us and all the bad things, because it follows us home in a little Apple package.
When I was growing up, I didn't know any women in the STEM field, and I didn't have anyone to look up to, so I'm hoping for that to change in the future.
I really hope to bring some knowledge about my topic to a wider arena and sort of bring these incentives and initiatives to Moncton.
There were, I think, 1.6 million youth from around the world striking from school on that day. And so that's pretty impressive, and governments are definitely waking up to that.
And it makes me very scared, because there's not much I can do, but I do as much as I can.
The IPCC report said 12 years left, and that was several months ago, so we're close to 11 years now, and I'm only 13, so that's a lot of my future that if change doesn't happen, like, I'm going to be affected.
My generation wants to change the world, but I think it might be too late. But with enough hard work, I think it's possible if we all come together.
I really hope that my generation will change the world.
How do we stop bullying? We can't. And that is the question I am asked most often when I go to schools to speak on the subject. It's, how can we stop bullying in our schools? And every single time I tell them, you can't. We're all working towards making the situation 99% better, at best. It did happen, it does happen, and it will. Luckily, we're asking ourselves the wrong question. You see, we as a society, we keep fighting this. We want our kids to go into a school where they feel safe, where there's no hassling and no bullying going on. So if that's what society wants, society gets. So the Minister of Education is going to say, well, no, there's no problem. We're going to create laws and write documents and create protocols, and we're going to release funds. And we're going to give those protocols and those funds to the school boards, which will be redirected into their schools to help them stop bullying in their environment. And once they receive that, they're going to say, well, I'm going to give that to the most perfect person to stop bullying, the most educated person to stop bullying, either the special aid technicians or the teachers. And they're going to say, well, I'm not too sure where to start with this, but I'll do exactly how I learned it in university, which is bring a kid from point A to point B, intellectually speaking. So we're going to give them definitions. We're going to put posters on our walls. We'll paint a mural with inspirational quotes. We'll have a pink t-shirt day. We're going to wear bracelets. We're going to have a parade. And hopefully, my situation, my interventions will stop bullying. Hope is the most useless feeling in the emotional catalog. The minute you start to feel hope, you should realize that whatever you're doing is not working, but you're just telling yourself, maybe if I get lucky, things will go my way and bullying will magically disappear. It's impossible to think that wearing a pink t-shirt on a specific day will stop bullying. All it does is create a platform on which people can take a stand on a subject where there's no debate. We all agree with you. Nobody wants bullying in our schools. Nobody in the right state of mind is going to say, tell you what, I think it's going to be better for my kids and going to help them out with their emotional development. Nobody says that. Luckily, we're asking ourselves the wrong question. Every single time you're going to try to fix an emotional problem with an intellectual solution, it's going to fall short. You see, you probably saw this before. They take this sheet of paper and they make a ball with it, and when they open it back up, they see all these creases on the piece of paper. And they explain that if every crease on that sheet of paper is like a situation where you saw yourself as a victim. You see, trying to stop bullying is like trying to find ways at which our kids can go through life without anything bad happening to them. It's impossible. Everybody here has found themselves faced with a situation where they were a victim. We're asking ourselves the wrong question. We should be asking ourselves, what if we can find a situation at which we can make that sheet of paper thicker so the situation doesn't define us, it won't affect us. You see, if I take this sheet of cardboard and I make a ball with it and unfold it, you're going to see the crease, but there's not going to be any deepness in that crease. And the way we do that is by creating confidence. As teachers and as parents, our job is to show our kids ways at which they can generate confidence for themselves and find situations as victories so they can feel confident in themselves. Every single time I speak to teachers, I ask them, what's your job? Define me what you do for a living. And every single time I get the same answer. Well, I teach math and biology and chemistry in grade 6 curriculum. And every single time I tell them, that's not your job. Your job is not to teach grade 6 curriculum, but to take that curriculum as a vehicle in which they can feel confident in themselves. You see, I'm going to show you something really hard to understand. And whenever I'm done teaching you this, I'm going to give you work. I'm going to give you exercises. And whenever you can apply whatever I just taught you on those exercises, I'm going to say, I told you you could do it. You kept telling me you could. Well, that just proved you wrong. Do you realize how intelligent you are? You should be proud of yourself. Your goal is not to teach a certain curriculum, but to take that curriculum as a vehicle in which you can show our kids how to generate confidence for themselves. Same thing goes for parents. Your only job as a parent is to educate your kids on how to be self-sufficient in life. That's it. And your kids' only job is to take whatever information you need to give them and apply it. And that dialogue, it's called recognition. You need to tell them and show them how to be self-sufficient. And whenever they do apply it, you need to recognize that they did. I'm really happy that you act that way in that specific situation. Thank you for making my job as a parent so easy. Do you know how proud I am to be your father? The thing is, as parents, I get it. I hear so many times people out of frustration tell no to their kids, and I get it. You need to tell them no. Whenever they're doing something wrong and something dangerous for their lives, you need to tell them, no, you can't do this. But whenever they're doing something right, you got to tell them as well. Experts say that kids can hear the word no up to 400 times in a single day compared to a handful of yeses. That's like if me and you are in a car, you're driving and I'm co-pilot. We need to go to Toronto with no maps and no GPS. And every single time you make a wrong turn, I'm going to go, nope, wrong turn. Rerouting. How long is it going to take for you to get pissed off at me? You got to tell them no, but you got to tell them yes. You see, We need to generate confidence in our kids. That's what we all want as a human being. As teachers, as parents, as caregivers, we need to show them ways at which they can generate confidence for themselves or find situation as victory so they can feel confident in themselves. Because if you don't do it, they're going to do it by themselves. That's ironically how bullying starts. You see, me and you, we're between 3 and 4 years old. I'm playing with the ball. Cherry red, big yellow stars, school ball. And I'm having as much fun as I can possibly have with that ball. And you see me having some fun, so you come up to me and say, hey, Alain, can I play with the ball? Of course, I know, though, that's my ball. I want to play with it by myself. Leave me alone. Obviously, you probably feel rejection. So out of anger or frustration, you push me. I fall on the ground, let go of the ball. You pick it up, and you play with it. Of course, you're probably going to get in trouble because you can't push a friend or classmates or... But it doesn't matter what goes on after that point. You just got what you wanted. Later on throughout that day, I'm still playing with that ball. Cherry red, big yellow star, you know it. And when you see me having fun with that ball, so you come up to me again and ask me, can I play with the ball? But I remember what you did. So out of fear, I'll say, you know what? Here you go. I don't want to have nothing to do with you. You go play with it. I don't want you to push me. Here's what you just understood. If you can find a way to introduce or induce fear into somebody else, you're going to get exactly what you want, and you're not going to get in trouble because you didn't push anybody. You don't need to be physical every single time. You just learned how to turn a situation where you felt rejection into a situation where you feel confident. You need to show them proper ways at which they can do this. You see, if I see a kid who plays sports, he's good at school, he's got a lot of friends, emotional support. Whenever he goes home, he keeps having good times with his parents. They keep going to the movies. They went bowling last Friday. They're planning a little camping day in the backyard, planning a little bonfire. He's got a lot of positive parental presence. Tell a joke to that kid. Insult that kid. There's not going to be any deepness in that crease. There's probably not going to be a crease. You can't get to him. He's not a victim. I'm not talking about that kid. I'm talking about the kid who doesn't get to play sports. He's not directed into certain things that he likes to do, like piano or painting. He doesn't have good grades at school. He doesn't have a lot of friends, no emotional support. Whenever he goes home, Dad yells a lot. He keeps saying that he's stupid and annoying. Mom's on her phone. She keeps taking selfies and posting them on social media. He's got no positive parental presence. Insult that kid. Tell a joke to that kid. Not only there's going to be a crease, but it's going to be deep. You're actually defining that person. You see, we have to realize that the way that we speak to our kids is going to be the reason or the way that they speak to themselves. Show me a confident kid and I'm going to show you a kid who's not a victim. And if you don't have any victims, you're not going to have any bullies. You want to stop bullying? You're asking yourself the wrong question. Thank you.
Beth is the entrepreneur behind Beth's Bike Light, a small and local business that makes bike safety lights that show drivers how much space bicycles need on the road.
Speaker live in 5, 4, 3.
Hi everybody. Hello? Can you hear me? No? Mic's not on. Test. Okay. All right. Hi everybody. Sorry about that.
Let's do a restart.
Okay, yeah.
You
Oh, okay.
I'll just do this part.
Okay.
And speaker live in 5, 4, 3, 2.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'd like to dedicate my talk today to a very special person. Just letting you all know. All right. So, when I was younger, I always was a super hyperactive and super competitive and questioning person. I always used to ask, why? Especially every time we learned something new. I'd be the person in the back, sitting up and getting super excited about what I was learning, and then I'd raise my hand. And sometimes I'd annoy my teachers with it a little bit. But the answer I always got to that question was always inside the box. The answer I got was always, oh, you'll need it in high school, or it's for your grade, or we have a bunch of stuff we need to get done before the end of June. Up until a middle school project, I never knew that my learning could mean more than the box. I never knew that my learning could be for more than myself. Up until our teacher assigned the STEM project. Now, when you're in middle school and you hear the words project, a little light goes off in your head, and the eye rolls start to come out, and how am I gonna find time for this? Or what is this gonna do? How is this gonna help me in life? That's what happens when they assign a project. No one wanted to do it, and no one was excited about it. And me and my little middle school brain thought that there was no issues. I was never taught real issues in school, and I never listened to the news or the radio because I was way too busy listening to One Direction. That's what makes you beautiful. Does anyone know that song? Yeah, okay. I was always too busy listening to that stuff, and I never knew about any real-world issues. So I was just going to build a volcano. Who in here has built a volcano for their middle school project? Anyone? Yeah, that's what I thought. So I had all the stuff ready, and I was just going to do that. And then my parents were like, no, you should put some time and some effort into this, and you should really think about it. So we sat down and ate supper, and we turned on the radio. And on the radio, we hear the story of Ellen Waters. Ellen Waters was a professional cyclist from Sussex, New Brunswick. She was known for her passion, her dedication, and her spirit for the sport. In the December of 2016, Ellen was home celebrating the holidays with her family, and because of the dedicated cyclist she was, she decided to go out for a training run. When she was on this training run, a driver did not see her, and sadly she was hit by the car and passed away. But because of Ellen and many other determined cyclists in New Brunswick, there is now a law there is a push on for this law. Ellen's law states that drivers must give cyclists 1 meter clearance on the road, or else they will be fined and they will lose 3 points on their license. After we heard this news on the radio, our family was excited. We said, oh, that's great, now cyclists will be more safe. But then my mom said, well, if I'm driving, it'd be hard to tell how long 1 meter is. You'd have to guess, and that's a really dangerous guess to make because it's a real life at stake. So then I had a little bike light moment. What if I created a light or something that gave drivers a visual on the road of how much space to give them? And what if I did this for my STEM project? So what do you do when you need electronics and you need stuff for your project when you're in Maritimer? Of course, you go to Princess Auto. So the next day, my dad and I went to Princess Auto, and we picked up a lovely 12-volt battery, a wire, a bunch of wires, and a switch, and a light that was meant to be a tail light on a trailer. And we put it all together, and I even added some beautiful duct tape to give it some pizzazz. After I made this light, I put it on my bike, and I took pictures, and I did my whole project report, and I was really excited to bring it and show it to my teachers. I ended up getting a B on the project, which is really deflating and really hard, because I put a lot of effort, and I was really excited about it, and I thought that maybe this could make a real change. But I still ended up getting to go to the STEM, Youth Entrepreneurship Challenge, and the Provincial Science Fair. And at these places, I heard the same thing. From real cyclists, they told me that this is a real issue for them, and this is a real problem on the roads that they were having right now. Suddenly, my project that I wanted to do a volcano on, and that I didn't even want to do in the first place, could solve a real issue and could make a real difference for a real person. They also gave me feedback to go from my first light to my second, because although I loved my 12-volt battery with my duct tape, they said that it would be a little too heavy, and that they need their water bottle holder to actually hold their water bottle instead of a battery. Pfft, who knew? But now we have a way more efficient light that's better for cyclists. This is what it looks like now. So now that I had this idea and this light in my house, I had no idea what to do with it. I had it here and I had no idea where to market it. So I decided to sell it at the Moncton Market. And I thought that the Moncton Market only started at noon. Apparently it starts really early. So just like every teenage girl, I was so excited to wake up at 6:30 in the morning. Not really, but I still ended up going, and I had a great time. I got to meet incredible cyclists like this biker gang, and I even discovered the best waffles that I've ever had ever. Just letting you all know, Joy's Waffle House makes 6:30 in the morning a lot more bearable, especially when she puts extra Nutella. Oh man. But again, I met these crazy, awesome cyclists who have a passion for their sport and really care about what they do. But people in New Brunswick don't know how to share the roads. Cyclists will be cycling and doing their passion and commuting to work, and they feel unsafe, and they feel like they can't do their passion because our roads are too small or too narrow. But this light really helped them. Suddenly, I was taking what I was learning in school and applying it in the market. Suddenly, communicating in French and English is more than just, oh, she can communicate in French and English. Check that off the rubric. Suddenly it was communicating it to 40% of our province, or else they wouldn't have access to this light. Suddenly, making my trifold and my display at the market appealing meant more than just, oh, she organized it. Check, 10% again. Suddenly it meant more than that. Suddenly my learning could solve a real problem in the real world right now. Suddenly my learning connected me with people from coast to coast to coast, and even in Germany, including these lovely ladies. These ladies are all retired nurses, and the one in the middle's name is Golda Oxford. Golda is a 67-year-old retired nurse from Springdale, Newfoundland. They all bike 25 kilometers every single day. They said that they were having the same issues in Newfoundland that we are having in New Brunswick, that drivers don't know how to share and that they felt unsafe on the road. Who knew that this project that I didn't even want to do, that I was just going to build a volcano, that I rolled my eyes at when I first saw it, would get me in touch with these incredible people? The problem was, before this project, I was never excited about school, and I was never passionate about any projects I've done before. In school, we're taught to follow a line. We're taught to get good grades, go to good university, and get a good job that pays us a lot of money. And the problem is that when we're in that line, we forget about real-world problems, and we try to shelter our generation from them. It was just by fluke chance that I heard Ellen's story on the radio. If I would have missed that story, then I probably would have just built a volcano, and I wouldn't be up here on the stage today, and I wouldn't be in touch with these people. Kids all the time are oblivious to real-world problems, and we are way too comfortable in New Brunswick. We get caught up in that line. We get caught up in, oh, I didn't get an A. Oh, man. And we forget about the real problems. If we fail to train and teach our future generation about the issues that we are having in our environment, then we will continue to pick convenience over sustainability. It's easier to go to the grocery store and just use a plastic bag instead of remembering your reusable ones. It's easier to use a plastic straw instead of remembering your metal ones. But if we don't teach them that the result of choosing convenience over sustainability is that, then this happens. Our landfills continue to fill, our plastic islands in our ocean continue to grow, and these issues keep on getting bigger and bigger and bigger. There is no planet B. We need to teach them these issues. We can't say, oh, our generation's too young. They don't need to know about that. That's far down the road. We can't say, oh, we're in New Brunswick. We don't need to worry about that. Because soon, our issues, our plastic, is going to catch up to us. And we need to teach them about the results of that. And if you do that, I believe that they'll be more passionate and more excited about their learning. Because when I was excited, when I was solving a real-world problem, I ended up learning incredible things that I never thought I would learn before. I hope you're sitting there, and I hope you're getting a little scared. I hope you're saying, I don't want my teenage girl just to listen to music. I want her to care about real issues. I hope you're thinking that. And here's how I would want you to teach me if I was being mentored by you. I would want you to give me examples and not ideas. Often in school, teachers tell us exactly what to do, how to do it, and when it has to be done. Yes, we need guidelines, but don't tell us exactly how to do it. Give us examples of things that have worked in the past, but give us the space and the guidance to explore our own ideas. They need to, and teach them about real-world issues. They need to know about them to care. David Suzuki once said they need to know and see to care. I didn't become an environmentalist until I knew about the issues that we were having. I didn't care about cyclists until I became a part of the community and knew about an issue that they were having. We need to know to care. I leave you with this. Adults, don't get caught up in the grades, the curriculum, or the prettiest posters. Teach our future generation real problems and give them the space and the guidance to let their ideas flourish. To the kids in the room, don't ever let your ideas be squashed by B's, C's, or honorable mentions. It would have been a lot easier for me to stop and just build a volcano. It would have been a lot easier for me to stop after those judges or those people told me I couldn't do it. It would have been a lot easier, but I wouldn't be up here today, and I wouldn't have gotten in contact with incredible people, and I wouldn't have got to try those incredible waffles. Finally, you have the power and you have the voice to take your ideas and run with them. Don't think that your learning is just for you, and don't think that school is just to get good grades. It can be so much more than that. And even if you fail, remember what Thomas Edison said. Our greatest weakness lies in giving up, and the most certain way to succeed is always to try just one more time. If you keep persevering and you keep trying and you keep learning about these new ideas, then I believe that you can solve them and you can change them and you can be the ones making real change in our planet. Thank you.
Quinn's passion for the environment was recently propelled by the wave of climate strikes all over the world. She has even been involved in organizing one herself. Quinn is our youngest speaker tonight.
Do I go on? Do I go on? Should I go on?
And speaker live in 5, 4, 3.
If we don't act now on climate change, within 11 years, we will set off an irreversible chain reaction that will affect millions of lives. The future is at stake, for humans and for all life. So it should be clear that we need immediate and drastic action on climate change. But this has not been happening. If we want to stop climate change, we need people to be informed about the crisis and to be motivated to take action. We've been hearing about the science and the facts for ages, but statistics don't connect with people on an emotional level. And people won't feel inclined to take action on something they don't see the importance in, so it is time that we started looking at the climate crisis through a different lens. It is time that we started using climate art to increase people's engagement in the climate crisis. When I first watched Greta Thunberg's TED Talk last fall, I was inspired by her clear call to action. So I decided to join the global youth climate strike movement that she started, where millions of youth from all around the world are striking from school to raise their voices for a just and livable future. So I helped organize several strikes in our community of Sackville, New Brunswick. Through my involvement, I have observed that there's a pattern to people's relationships with the climate crisis. As I witnessed more, these observations became what I now call the cycle of engagement in the climate crisis. And I've noticed a clear link between this cycle and climate art. There are 3 elements to the cycle: action, information, and inspiration. Action, ultimately the most important one, can be anything from making changes to your personal lifestyle, such as eating less meat, to joining a climate strike or writing to a politician. Information is when you're learning something new about climate change, its impacts, or what you can do about it. Inspiration can occur when something motivates you to take action on or learn more about climate change. And each one of these elements leads to one another. For example, while participating in climate strikes, I've watched youth who know barely anything about climate change come out to a strike, taking action, which then inspires them to learn more about climate change, which then motivates them to take action again. Sorry. Once you are pulled into this cycle, you will remain engaged, shifting between the 3 elements in any direction. Now, where does climate art fit in? Climate art actually enhances each element of the cycle with its ability to engage people in a new and more interesting way. Climate art also enables you to see the crisis from angles you may have never considered, which can lead to new solutions. But what is climate art exactly, and how can it do that? Climate art can be created using any form of art, from painting to sculpting to photography to poetry. It is a relatively new concept, similar to the more well-known concept of eco-art. However, an example of eco-art would be creating a sculpture out of garbage, or making other art that raises awareness about other environmental issues which, though very important, are not quite as urgent as climate change. So the difference is that climate art focuses specifically on the climate crisis and conveys the urgency of the need for action on climate change. Climate art pulls people into the cycle of engagement because not only does it engage the mind, but the heart as well. Another reason climate art is so effective in engaging people is because art evokes emotions. And when people are emotionally connected to something such as climate change, they will be far more likely to take action. Historically, emotions have been influential in getting people to take environmental action. For example, the fear and grief that was evoked from reading Rachel Carson's Silent Spring ultimately led to the ban of DDT. So, art with emotion further enhances each element of the cycle. Sorry. Oh yeah. And an outcome of this enhancement is that it will lead to more action. And action is what we need. I've always loved writing, and last fall I wrote an environmental poetry slam. Everything I knew and was feeling about the climate crisis just came to a head, and the words began to flow. I performed this poem at several events before I performed it at Sackville's first climate strike. I observed that my poem connected with and inspired people, and I think that's a first-hand example of how climate art can connect with people on an emotional level. So this youth climate strike movement that I've been mentioning throughout my talk is, I believe, waking up the world to the urgency for the need for action on climate change. I think if we were to couple more use of climate art with the school strikes, we would be able to really increase everyone's engagement in the climate crisis. So if you have a message to share about climate change, then create climate art. And if you get the chance to witness or observe climate art, then allow it to pull you into the cycle, whether you become informed or inspired. Now, picture yourself at a climate strike. The stage is yours, and you look out over the mass of people. A megaphone has been handed to you, and you have just a couple minutes to present. You have this one chance to pull people into the cycle of engagement in the climate crisis. What will make your presentation interesting? Maybe yours is climate art. Mine is. It's a poem, and it's called Today to Tomorrow. When you think of the earth, you think of death and destruction. When you think of the earth, you think of hate and corruption. You don't think about the time, the love, and the care that Mother Earth has taken to create this earth we share. Start to think of the earth as the only place and space that can support life, the one thing that can bring joy, love, sorrow, and inspiration in just one creation. I think that in itself is an inspiration to save, protect, resurrect, and restore all that we've destroyed and even more. How do humans have the right to tear this earth to pieces? Our planet is not a page without any creases. We have so many stories, both bad and good, but the worst one, this one, I think we should change, and I think we can, but not with one man. We need a powerful change, a revolution. Yes, I believe that is the solution, so come on and help. Everyone plays their part. Now is the time that we have to start, so go home and learn. Learn what you can do. There are so many things, just trust me, it's true. Even if you perform one small act globally, it has a huge impact. So keep that thought in your mind, then you'll find you'll be more inclined to take a moment from your life. Use it like a knife, and together we'll cut our way through today to tomorrow, where if we make a change, our world won't be strange. Instead, it'll be filled with light and delight, no suffering of any kind, human, animal, or plant. So don't you dare tell me you think that you can't, because if you listen to my rant, you'll know there's hope. So pull back hard on the rope, pull humanity, sanity, the planet, and life back from the edge of the cliff, and maybe, just maybe, we'll have the chance to make it to tomorrow without any sorrow. Thank you.
You will now have a 20-minute intermission.
did a good job.
Oh, wait, did you speak at Boston Week? I was speaking I don't know, like, like they said, I've done public speaking before. This is the worst I've ever been. Like, I don't know why today I just kept It's instinct, plus we're Canadians, we apologize for everything. Yeah. That's what I figured getting on the back of the he said I know, so I was like, I ain't back here, I need your food. I am, they stink, you yes. Apparently TedxMoncton that this is the first TedxYouth in the If
your father by many that you spoke in your
Can I please have all of the committee members and all of the volunteers except our merch table and our speakers, can we have you up on the stage, please, for a group photo? No.
Is there chocolate up there? You got me like just a chocolate plain chocolate. Yeah. Fancy floral. Is that the shirt you that was part of your tournament? Is that your ladies' medium? That's what we asked. Why does he ask what size everybody wears? I actually asked no. I was like, hey, we're taking
Jeremy, we need you.
I didn't know she was talking almost. Like, I'm curious, there were two guys, so can
This is your 5-minute warning. 5 minutes.
Check.
Check 1 2 check. Check 1 2 check.
Amaya, if you are here, can you come see Jeremy at Tech, please? Amaya, come to Tech, please. There you are. ladies and gentlemen, if you will please take your seats, we'll begin the second half. Thank you.
So just a note before we start, after the show, Brooklyn will be redoing her speech, so if any of you would like to stay for that, you will be welcome. Our next speaker, Sky, is a leader in the nonprofit called Current Generation. This organization supplies lights to students in developing countries, allowing them the resources to study. She hopes to pursue a career in the biomedical field and will be studying engineering at UNB this fall.
Ends.
Speaker live in 5, 4, 3.
We all know these women. Society values their aesthetics and beauty. We know Diane Sawyer's legs, we know George Clooney's trophy wife Amal, and we know Emma Watson's beautiful face. And we tend to recognize these things only because of their looks and not because of their accomplishments. But in order to have a sustainable world, women need to be recognized for more than just their looks, because they've won the Walter Cronkite Award for Excellence in Journalism. They're successful human rights lawyers, and they're UN Goodwill ambassadors who have attended Ivy League schools. But we don't know these things because society doesn't get past their looks on social media or in a magazine. While figuring out how to start this TEDx talk, I looked up beautiful, successful women. And the first thing that showed up was 20 accomplished women share how to dress for success. And the top 10 hottest and most beautiful Asian women of 2019. And the 20 most beautiful black women in the world. And only 2 helpful links popped up. The 100 most accomplished Canadian women and the 20 most accomplished women in history. But nowhere in these names is Donna Strickland mentioned, a Nobel Prize winner in physics. Or Tierra Fletcher, a girl who's building a rocket ship at age 21. Or Macy Jemison, the first African-American woman to be an astronaut, to go in space. These women have to fight stereotypes all the time. So how is it any wonder that girls dream of becoming the next Instagram model instead of a true change maker when society judges them solely for their appearance? These are the pressures that young girls are flooded with every day. And these are the pressures that I've been flooded with every day. My whole life, I've been scared to show that I'm more than just what I look like. I hide behind my long hair and my bubbly personality. So yes, I'm loud and I'm outgoing, but I'm also scared and nervous all the time. The doubts, the fears, the worries, and the insecurities nag at me. Doubts and insecurities can give wisdom, but only if you know when to listen to them and when to ignore them. And finding this balance is hard. It's been an uphill battle for me, trying to get past these voices. I have no reason to doubt who I am, but the pressures of society have made me a girl who is hiding her true self. But I started thinking recently, Am I alone? Are there other girls out there like me who hide behind their hair or have what I like to call a school face to put on when they leave the house? A way of nervously laughing off things that don't go their way or need background noise on all the time to distract themselves from the voices in their head. When I was younger, I dreamed of being a secretary, and I was just so excited to pursue this career in secretarying, as I called it. And this was because I had no idea what other role models were out there for me. I had no one to look up to. All I had was Hannah Montana, someone who perfectly embodies the stereotype that's pushing women away from the STEM fields. She has the long hair, she doesn't care about her education, she worries about only boys and makeup. This is not what I wanted. Where were the astronauts and the women pilots and engineers and trailblazers? Where are the people that I could really look up to? The great women in STEM are practically unheard of. Like women like Patricia Bath, the first African-American woman to receive a medical patent in 1988, compared to the first male to receive one in 1796. This is crazy, and it's disappointing. Why are the great women in STEM not celebrated, not broadcasted, and not heard of? My voice of doubt started in the 3rd grade. I was being tested at school for a gifted program, and I was so excited to have been chosen. But the students who weren't chosen made me feel like it was not something to be proud of. They said, well, why do you even want to do that? That's so nerdy. And their little kid voices stayed in my head for weeks. But I did end up getting into the program and being ashamed of something I had been looking forward to. But when did becoming a smart girl be something to hide? Why was I embarrassed about learning new and exciting material? Why was I hiding my true self? I did end up staying in the program for the next 3 years, and some of my happiest memories in elementary school were in that classroom. It became a safe space for me to excel, with students like me and teachers who cared about educating their students the right way. But my family's jobs changed, and we moved from Atlanta to Riverview. I was ripped from my friends and the school I was just starting to love halfway through the 5th grade. I walked into my elementary school in a town so small I didn't even know it existed. I sat down at this new, cold, empty desk with a group of strangers who had been friends since birth, so you could say it was intimidating. And we started doing some math, some science, and some English, and I realized that I had learned this material years ago. So now, not only was I the new girl with the funny accent who says y'all and ain't and bless your sweetheart, I was a know-it-all. So you could say I had a great first day of school. My parents quickly realized, though, that I was bored. So they put me into the French program at school. So now I was bored in a different language. That was fun. It stayed this way for 2 years before I decided it was time for a change. I asked my mom if she thought there was a way I could skip a grade. And I was kind of joking when I said it, but she looked back at me and she said, well, why not? So there she was, calling the teachers, calling the administration, and within a couple days, I was taking tests. The test lasted for several days, and I met with the administration and my teachers to talk about the social shift I'd be making. They finally said yes. So now it was official. I was going to high school at age 13, and it was terrifying. But the first day of school came, and I had a great day, and I made a friend, and it was awesome. And I knew that I had made the right choice for myself at the time. I was being challenged in school every day. I had matured quickly out of necessity. Grades 9 and 10 flew by. Grade 11 came, and I took the bios and the pre-calcs and the chems, and I was loving school. But even with my strong academics, I was struggling with being myself. Even though I was excelling in my classes, I was having trouble with the social shift and my mental health. High school is not only about the education, because the social culture has such a massive influence over how students progress over the years. And my social shift had impacted my insecurity more than I had expected. I was unable to raise my hand in class because the fear of being wrong was overwhelming. I thought, I'm the girl who skipped a grade. I'm supposed to be a genius. I can't make mistakes. Imperfection was not an option for me. So I felt alone. But high school is the 4 years where you're supposed to find yourself before your life really starts. It's when you can choose to ignore this background noise and be who you truly are. And I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to do so. I joined a program that changed my life, and I wouldn't be standing here today if I hadn't have joined that program. Current Generation is an after-school program that combines high school physics with solving real-world problems. And it started when a girl from my school traveled to the Dominican Republic on a mission trip where she met 2 girls called Haley and Maria. Here they are. They were studying to be doctors, but studying to be a doctor was difficult because their town suffered from rolling blackouts. Rolling blackouts are when you lose electricity for days at a time. so studying at night was impossible. The student from my school came back and said it was time to make a change. And now 6 years later, we have about 10 students designing cases, soldering circuit boards, and shipping lights off to students in need, like Haley and Maria. Since then, we've partnered with Colorado and the UK in hopes to expand our global reach. And we've designed a variety of lights, like a headlamp, a lantern, and like a textbook light that lights up a whole page. We sent about 500 lights around the world, and we're excited to make new opportunities and meet new people. So when we were invited to the New York Maker Faire in September of last year, it was an exciting ordeal. I'd never been to New York before, so that was cool. But before going to the fair, I didn't realize how exciting it was what we were doing. I didn't realize that we were literally giving students light so they could follow their dreams. And it was such an uplifting feeling for me to know that I could make a change like that in someone's life. I remember talking to the cutest little girl. She was wearing a bright pink NASA hat. And I was telling her the story of Haley and Maria and how the lights work and how to solder and stuff while my friend was teaching her how to physically solder. She stayed at the booth for a little bit, and when she left, we heard her turn to her mom and say, "Mom, I'm going to be an electrical engineer at NASA." And then she straightened her hat, said, "Can we get some ice cream?" and walked away. But this had really touched my heart. We had made a real impact on this girl's life. I was becoming a role model, but it also upset me. Because why didn't this happen to me when I was a young girl? Where was my inspiration and where was my role model? But this little girl had helped me find my purpose, because it was at the fair when I decided on a career in engineering. Because for me, there's something about the way the smoke curls in the air when you're soldering and the act of physically building something that called out to me, calling out louder than my voice of doubt and my insecurity that had been taking over my brain for years. And it was then that I knew, this is how I change the world. This is how I become the best version of myself. And since then, I decided to join biomedical engineering, which combines healthcare and biology principles and engineering principles with helping the healthcare system. And since I decided on engineering and since I talked to this little girl, I have started accepting who I am. Someone who loves school and learning and building stuff and art projects and science fairs. I've become stronger and I've become better. I know now that I can do this. I can be the best version of myself. I can make a true change in the world. And my high school experience has taught me how to embrace myself, how to be the best version of myself. But not a lot of girls get this opportunity in high school. I'm only one of the few lucky ones. A majority of girls don't find out who they are. And changing the school system is key to a sustainable world and key to helping these girls find their purpose. But changing the school system means not only the curriculum, but the culture within schools. It means project-based classes and innovation and all that is not enough. Girls need to be at the front, with their heads held high, ready to change the world. And the only way that this will happen is by providing them with real role models, by positively influencing them from a young age to follow their dreams, to quiet the voice of doubt that society has put in their heads. This will provide for a more sustainable world. We need to have project-based classes, teachers who can shape their students into good people, schools who embrace change and raise awareness about the world's problems will provide for a more sustainable world. Girls bring the heart, the empathy, and the passion. It's our time to shine. We must become the trailblazers, the world leaders, the astronauts, the physicists, the activists. It's our time to shine. So thank you for having me, and I hope this talk will help the 131 million girls worldwide who aren't in school get an education. Thank you.
Amaya learned about this event through a writing teacher and was immediately excited about the idea. She loves to motivate those around her and always strives for happiness.
And speaker live in 5, 4, 3.
This year, I started eating my veggies. And yes, I am 17. I've begun doing this recently because I wanted to pursue positive change for myself, and because I've been a picky eater for as long as I can remember. I want to start eating my food as if it's my medicine, so later on, I won't have to eat my medicine like it's my food. You might be thinking, it's strange I took so long to do something that everyone else has been kind of casually doing their whole lives. But for me, it's been really challenging to step outside my comfort zone. It takes a certain motivation to start eating well that I never had when I was younger. Most of my peers struggle big time with motivation. Asking around school with close friends and some random people, I found that the biggest culprit for being unmotivated is habits. To become more motivated and to support a sustainable lifestyle for yourself, you must find what bad habits you have, and then you have to find good habits to replace them. And after that, you have to take out anyone that is in your way. The first step is getting rid of your bad habits. To get to where you want to be, you have to do this step. Assessing your values is vital to deciding what habits you should break. I found out the hard way that eating my vegetables is difficult and not as easy as munching on chips and fries. But for me, it's necessary because of my value for health. Once you get rid of what is in your way and what's distracting you, you can be more capable. Your mind is powerful, far more than you might believe. Your brain will give the orders and your body will listen if you tell yourself you can achieve something. You must believe in yourself because you are capable of doing whatever it is you want to do. And lazy is easy. But what's life worth if you just do the easy stuff? Breaking bad habits can be really difficult, but with perseverance and consistency, it's definitely possible. The next step is finding your good habits. Encouraging good habits in your life is beneficial for your physical and mental health. Don't ignore what you love now and could love. Who knows? Maybe you'll come to like an activity that you disliked in the past. It could be lifting some weights, going for a run, maybe crunching on some carrots. The point is, you only have one body, and you can't deny this fact. Exercising and eating well, although it's difficult at first, it's crucial to function properly and to your full potential. I personally feel like crap when I eat junk food. But I feel very proud of myself when I eat well. Last week, I ate an entire stalk of asparagus for the first time in my life. Progress. Most times when there's something that you want in your life, you have to step outside your comfort zone. That's just how it works. Practicing good habits in theory, is easy. A dash of healthy food over here, some exercise over here, and boom, you got yourself some good habits, right? Yeah. A famous quote from the Greek philosopher Aristotle is practice excellence. You must practice what makes you happy and healthy. Starting on just a monthly basis, and then on a weekly basis, and then a daily basis, will ultimately affect you long term and will benefit your life because habits become life choices. Set yourself up to be successful. The last step that I give to you is eliminating toxic friends. Friends are amazing. We have fun times with them. We hang out and we just have so many memories with them. But what about when we need their support, or we need to talk to them, or we need to solve a conflict? Our friends should have our backs and should be there to encourage us when we need it. And we probably should want to do the same for them. They should bring us up, not bring us down. When this isn't the case, we need to change something. Treat others how you want to be treated. Something that I've heard throughout growing up. When others treat you poorly, especially your friends, you cannot give that back to them because you do not want to be treated like that. If you expect respect from your loved ones, then do not accept anything less. Deciding if someone is toxic in your life is a really tough decision. And the most crucial part of it all is finally removing them when they add more bad instead of good to your life. And remember, bad, even if it doesn't feel like there's as much of it, can outweigh the good. The biggest question you can ask yourself is, do they make me happy? This question has helped me tremendously. Because I had friends who I used to hate. And I know hate's a strong word, but it's true. They didn't respect me, and more times out of all of the time, they treated me poorly and not unfair. My failure was not leaving them soon enough and tolerating their unfair behavior for far longer than I should have. But my ultimate success was leaving them and going on search for finding my true friends, the friends who push me up every day and help me take on life. Finally, during this process of writing and brainstorming this speech, my first speech, you can imagine how incredibly difficult it was for me to take on this big and scary task. But what helped me get through it was keeping my purpose in mind throughout the entire time and knowing it wasn't just about me. When times were tough, I had to turn to my team of support because sometimes I just got intimidated by the workload, and they always set me back on track. Keep in mind, without motivation, you can't be where you want to be. You need to make the necessary changes to your life by breaking the bad habits you have, making room for the new ones. New, good, bad. Sorry, that doesn't make sense. Okay. Breaking the bad habits you have now. Making room for the new, good habits. And finding your team of support to always back you up. You are powerful. You are capable and worth it. Whatever it is that you want to do, you can do it. Okay. Chase after what you love, because if you put your mind to it, then you can do it. I'm not here to tell you what you should do. I'm here to tell you that you can do it. Thank you.
Darlene Smith finds giving back to her community very rewarding and volunteers with many organizations. She's been a member of Toastmaster for years, and she believes that everything starts and ends with your mindset.
Speaker live in 5, 4, 3.
How many, by show of hands, get excited with numbers? All right, just a few of you. Now, tell me, by a show of hands, how many get excited with money numbers? Oh, look at the hands go up. Well, congratulations, you are in the right place. place. And first of all, I'd like to thank you for being here today, investing some time in your education. And before anything else, how about a big round of applause for the youth up here? This is not easy. Huh? Give them a big round. I think that's so awesome that they are standing up here and sending some great messages. And I love the fact that the speaker before me just set me up with saying good habits, because now we're going to talk about money. And one of the cool things is everybody loves money, right? Now, in my lifetime, I live by this quote, "What you focus on expands." Now, how does that relate to money, people are saying? Well, this is exactly how. Money is limited. There is only so much of it that we have. Now, first of all, let me demonstrate. Does someone here have a cell phone? Someone got a cell phone? Yeah, listen, would you time 60 seconds? Will you do that for me? Time me 60 seconds, and when I'm done, I just want you to yell out, "Done," and I'm going to show you in 60 seconds why I'm here speaking about money. Well, my name is Darlene Smith. I live here in Moncton. I am known as the Energizer Bunny. Anybody seen that commercial? Yeah, that's me. Now, I have, in my past lives, I spent 15 years retail management. Managing retail stores means I had to be successful. What was the other thing? I'm a baby boomer, but I was young once. The last few years, I've been traveling across North America teaching entrepreneurs real estate investing, how to have their own businesses. Now, that means that I had to know how money works, how cash flow works, how to be successful. That is why I'm here. I have a passion of giving back, and if you just take away one or two little tips today, then I have done my life mission going throughout. All right. Done? Do I hear the done out there? 4 seconds. Boom. All right. You know what? I just thank you. Give her a round of applause for assistance. We got 2 of them in there. I got a few extra seconds, right? So that was just a demonstration on how living within limits. Now we're speaking about money in this particular case. That was time. All right. Now, if you may not realize, we all have a money blueprint already in our subconscious mind. And you're thinking, okay, all right, how did it get there? Well, it was actually developed either by your parents or guardians while you grow up. Now, 2 things are going to happen. You are going to be exactly the same as your parents or guardians, or you're going to be like me, you're going to be the total opposite. All right? Now, I see some giggling out there. I won't get you to say who's the same, who's the opposite. The thing is you are aware of this, and as being a youth or even as adults, you can now change it. Now, there's a number of different money plans out there. And in my generation, of course, it was saving. Now there's a lot of technology that goes into play. But what happens is we have to show some love to our money. What's going to happen is you either manage your money or the money is going to manage you. And if that's the case, a sustainable lifestyle, you're not going to have. Now think about this. In your households, particularly kids, have you had a conversation about money? Who's talked to you about it? Now adults, have you had that talk with your kids about money? Few of you have. I think that's awesome. But remember, you want to be talking to people who are successful. Not that person who sits on the couch, drinks the beer, eats the chips, and watches Netflix forever, right? They're probably not financially successful there. Now, cash is still king. If I don't have cash on me, I feel like I'm broke. You should always have a bill of some denomination on you at all times. Can technology fail? Let me try that again. Can technology fail? You're darn right it can. So I always make sure that I've got something. Now I got a $50 bill. I carry this for emergencies. Now an emergency is not, I see these shoes on sale. I need pair number 12. That's not an emergency. So make sure you carry this somewhere. You can kind of put it wherever. Maybe I can just put it in my shoe here. All right, we'll hang out for a while with that. Now, don't fall into this trap. Oh, credit cards. Show of hands, how many love credit cards? You look at them, oh, come on, don't be shy, right? Credit cards can be dangerous. Why? Because buying is an emotional decision. You need to ask yourself this question: do I want this or do I need it? Big difference. Where do we get in trouble? It's the wants. Just think about those things that you want, particularly for adults. Now, there's a number of money management systems out there. There's that hope plan. I hope I have enough money. And there's that no plan at all. I'm just going to hope that I just get by, that there's money left at the end of the month. And then there's that spending plan. It's meant to spend, I'm going to use it. Or that plan where it's like burning a hole in my pocket. I see if some of you smiling out there, you've experienced that as well. Or there could be just simply an improv budget, right? An improv plan. Those can all happen. So I don't know which one you're following, but you need to manage your money. Don't let it manage you. Boom. Now, how many, by a show of hands, have heard of the rule of 72? All right, a couple of you out there. So we need to know the rules of the game. Now, kids, when you go home, I want you to ask your parents if they know about Rule 72. If not, tell them. You're going to impress them, all right? And adults, you can impress your kids by telling them about Rule 72 too. 72, very simple. It's looking at investment. 72 divided by your interest rate equals the number that your money is going to double. Now, here's a mathematical simple, because I want to do it in my head, is 72. 12% investment means it's going to double every 6 years. Very simple. Got $1,000 in 6 years. How much am I going to have? 2,000. All right. Another 6 year by 2,000 is going to be? All right. You guys got this. Rule 72 down. Now, where we get into trouble in management is all those wants. And I got thinking about it. Where do we get in trouble? People say, I don't have enough money. I can't do this. They all focus on debt. Well, they need to do a mind flip and focus on the positive. Let's look at $5 a day. Do we really need that coffee or latte or whatever we buy at Starbucks today? If we have $5 a day, 5 days a week, 20 days a month, 240 days a year, that adds up to, boom, $1,200. That could be a vacation. What other things are you spending your money on? Where's the priorities? I keep saying it, got to show the money a little bit of love, right? Now, what happens is out of sight, out of mind. Don't get into that trap. Debt over and over and over. Debt over and over and over. Let me take a few minutes, and I'm going to teach you about a very simple management system. This is by T. Harv Eker, who's a famous Canadian. And this here is every bit of money that comes in, every dollar, you divide it up this way. Very simple. 65% is necessities, all right? 10% is what we call the financial freedom. And I'll explain this all in a second. 10% long-term spending. Keyword there is spending. 5% is education. 5% is play. And 5% is to give. Now, this is the gold, because this is not where you're going to start. Not at all. And to the parents out there, you know, if you haven't had those conversations with your kid, remember, we are setting the role model. What are we teaching them? This is not we just give them money. We've got to teach them skills on how to manage that money. Now, let's put this in determination. Necessity is 65%. Right now, it's probably 95. That's okay. That's the bills you pay. That's the gas. That's the telephone. That's your subscription to Netflix, right? FFA, that is what you don't spend. That is like investments. Because if you want a sustainable lifestyle, you have to plan for it. Remember I said, also I've run 3 businesses. Well, I've used my FFA as a deposit. If I didn't have that, I probably wouldn't have the businesses. Now, when we talk about long-term spending, in my days, being a little over, we would save and then we would spend. Now, credit card, we spend and then we'll just figure it out somehow to pay for it, right? We're on that debt wheel. That's not managing your money, right? Figure out where it goes. Now, when we talk about education, right, you need to invest. Now, yes, our school system does teach children about money, but also is you need to have more education, right? There's more to learn as well. Here's an example. This is education right here. It could be books, courses. I learned a lot of my education in the real estate training, how money works, wealth. I had to start paying attention to it. The universe says, if you don't manage what you have, why should I give you any more? Right? And that's really where it comes down to it. Now, kids can have this, and adults can have this system too. By the way, this is visual. I still have jars in my house, and I still manage it this way. The play. It's an emotional. This is where you treat yourself, right? It's sort of like being on a diet, and it's cheat day. Maybe it's going to the movie instead of watching one at home, having that expensive popcorn, whatever it may be in that case. The other is give, right? That could be donations to churches. It could be the Girl Guide cookies. It could be the 50-50 tickets. It's giving back. But you have to plan for all this moving forward. In the beginning, you may be 95%, and maybe 111. Maybe it's 97, half, half, half. It's more important to have it. It's more important the habit of manage your money than it is the amount. You ever wonder why somebody has money and you don't? It's in the management. This is the number one wealth tip that you can apply ASAP as you leave here today. It's important for your future to, first of all, learn how to manage your money personally, manage it in your household, manage it in your business, and goodness, also manage it in our government system, because you've heard a lot of people talk about the environment, plastic, everything else. If we don't look after our finances, they're all tied together. Hey, we need to do some action items. First is, I want you to start managing your money. How many people, by a show of hands, is going to make sure they're going to start doing that? I got a few up here. All right. Now, what about this one? Ask yourself every time you want to spend, is an item I want or do I need it? All right? Show of hands, how many's going to do that one? Whoa, that's going to be a tough one, because you're going to have this crazy lady in your head. Oh, you're picking up that 10th pair of shoes. That lady said, no, put them back down. Huh? That's okay. That's okay. Make sure you get some cash, right? Always have that cash. I always got some somewhere. It's a good thing to do even for adults, because you never know. I've been in, I don't know how many circumstances where you see people, technology broke, they don't have any cash. Cash still is king. But one of the most important things is I want you to promise me that you'll spend some time learning more about management of your money. Because I can only pack so much in a dozen minutes. Because remember, you manage your money, or it will manage you. It will control your lifestyle. And a sustainable lifestyle could be challenging. Promise me, manage your money. Have a good day.
So just a reminder, after this final talk, Brooklyn will be redoing hers. So if any of you want to stay for that, you are welcome. So for our final speaker, Mackenzie is dedicated to her studies both inside and outside of school. She brings her all to everything that she does, whether that be Girl Guides, her education, or other initiatives, groups, and activities that she's part of.
And speaker live in 5, 4, 3.
How many of you in this room are mortal, ultimately doomed to die? Now keep your hand up if you're also someone who's concerned about the environmental future of our planet. You might be wondering what these questions have to do with one another, and the answer lies in my next question.
Have you considered the impact your death might have on our environment? The answer is most likely no. It makes us feel very human and impermanent to talk about death. We avoid it like the plague. But if you're someone who's death aware, an environmentalist, or just someone who likes to be prepared, I'd like to let you in on your rights as a consumer when it comes to funeral practices, some alternative sustainable options to the traditional funeral system, and how you can be your own advocate for your good death. One thing you need to remember about the funeral industry is that it's just that, an industry. Sometimes money has to come first. So when you step into a corporate funeral home, oftentimes they might have to try to upsell you on things you may not want or need. That's not to say that every person in the funeral industry is some horrible vampire creature who wants to suck away all your money and bury great-grandma in a shoebox. No. Most people in the funeral industry are loving, caring people who want to help you deal with your grief. But by nature, they sometimes have to sell you things that do things that they may not agree with. And you have to be prepared for that. But these are some options that you can pursue if you want to follow the traditional funeral system, but want it to be a little more environmentally conscientious. Many people don't know that they can say no to embalming. For those of you that may not know, embalming is the process of draining the body of its fluids and replacing it with a chemical embalming agent which allows for long-term preservation. This is often the default at many funeral homes, and it's more expensive, often prohibitively expensive for many families. And as it's the default for many funeral homes, you may have to ask for them to specifically not do it. It is not any less safe to view a body if it's unembalmed. That's a myth that's been perpetuated for a long time. It is perfectly safe to see a body if they are unembalmed. Great-grandma will still be looking pretty good without being embalmed. I mean, she will look very dead, but she'll look pretty good for dead. And if the funeral home hums and haws and isn't meeting your needs and your desires, then you can take your business elsewhere. Many people don't know that they have the option to leave and walk away if the funeral home is not meeting their needs. Like anything you would in life, shop around and look at your options before you make a firm commitment. There are also alternative containers that you can pursue. Many funeral homes will make you feel like burying great-grandma in a solid platinum casket is more dignified and respectful than a pine box, but they're both gonna go in the dirt. I want you to remember that no matter how much anyone tries to upsell you, you don't need to prove anything to them. You know how much you love the departed, and they know how much you love them. You don't need to prove anything to anyone by sending thousands on funeral services, by buying these ornate coffins and urns. There are many alternatives. There's pine boxes, there's hemp caskets, there's wicker caskets. You can even bring in your own casket or urn if you've arranged for that ahead of time. There are also alternative funerals, where you don't have to have a funeral at the funeral home. A lot of people believe that they can't take the body elsewhere to do it, but some funeral homes will impose that restriction. It is their business in the end, and we have to respect their rights, and they have to respect our rights, respectively. But you can have a wake or memorial or a celebration of life anywhere you'd like, at home, at the park, on a boat, Chuck E. Cheese, wherever you think would make your loved ones feel most comfortable in their grief. But if you're someone who's looking for a more incredibly eco-friendly option, there are those out there. These are just some ways that you can modify the very traditional funeral system if that's what you want. We should all do what makes us most comfortable in our death. And if that's traditional, then that's traditional. That's what we should do. But these are just some alternatives that you might consider. There are some sustainable alternatives, my favorite of which is the green burial. This is what I want for myself. It's a very simple and minimalist sort of thing. It consists of a hole and a body and a shroud and some flowers. This way everything that goes into the earth is biodegradable. As such, you have no choice but to not be embalmed with this procedure. That's part of what makes it so green. And to me, this is a lovely way to give back to the earth at the end of your life. It nourishes all that's around you. I just personally love it. But that's just me. There's also a family involvement nature that often takes place in green burials that sometimes you can't get at traditional funeral homes. Families can often come and dress the bodies, shroud the bodies, clean the bodies, and a lot of people find this a wonderful way to say goodbye, as intimidating and daunting as it sometimes seems. Really, it's lovely, or so I would think. You can also get creative. If you can dream it and you start planning ahead of time, then odds are you can find someone who will accommodate your ideas. Some people like to be buried with wildflowers on top of them so that way their body can become sort of a miniature garden. After Luke Perry's unfortunate passing, he was buried in a biodegradable mushroom suit, and it nourishes the life around him. That was what made him happy. And if you can think of what would make you happy in your death, then you can surely find someone who will be willing to help you with that. In many parts of the world, there are some forms of burial that haven't quite hit the West yet. One of these is recyclable graves. This is a more common practice in Europe, Asia, and Africa, but I suppose India. Anyway, in this scenario, a body is interred and allowed to decompose for around 10 years, or however long it takes, and after which the remains, which have now become bones, are removed and they are given back to the family, where they are often cremated or they can be placed in a family mausoleum or anything of that sort. But the real gist of it is that the land has become usable again, and as there's a taboo in the Western world about ever disturbing a gravesite, we render this land forever inert. If we implemented this on a worldwide scale, we could solve our problem about running out of room to bury our dead, especially in densely populated urban environments. In Tibet, there is Tibetan sky burial, which the bodies of Tibetan monks are placed on isolated mountaintops and allowed to be eaten by predators, often vultures. And although this may sound intense to us here, for these monks, it's a very real way to give back to the earth what little they took away from it at the end of their life. We could implement this here by having designated woodland areas to have bodies left and buried through predation. This is an option for some people. For some people, that's horrifying. They don't like it at all. But for many people, this is a great way to be part of the earth. Thinking about your own mortality, no matter how frightening, is a great way to come to terms with it. For me, it was a matter of deciding what I wanted to be done with my corpse. I'm getting a little ambitious. It's a little early, but you know, it pays to be prepared. What I want for myself is the green burial route. I want to be shrouded and covered in flowers, and I want to be buried, and everyone I love puts a little dirt on me. And if Elton John could come and sing, that would be great. This is a daunting process for many people and something that's very hard to start thinking about, but it removes some of the mystery that surrounds death, and oftentimes that's the most frightening part, all the unknowns. Talking about what you want and what your loved ones want is wonderful. And thinking about what you don't want is just as important. When I think about being in a casket or in a mausoleum, I feel very cramped and suffocated. I don't like the idea of being on someone's urn or, God forbid, in someone's closet, so cremation is out. But when I think of being this horrible food for worms, disgusting mess in the ground of the artist formerly known as Mackenzie, I love it. I'm comforted, and I have no idea why. But that's sort of the gist of it. You don't need to know why. That's just how you feel. And we all come to this conclusion eventually, but oftentimes it's better to do it sooner rather than later. And once you make a decision like this, it's important to tell someone who's going to outlive you. Because one of the most terrifying things can be planning a funeral for someone you love and having no idea what they would have wanted. I hope when you go home tonight that you'll talk to your loved ones about what you want for your death and what they want for their death, as frightening and jarring as that might be. I think this is a conversation that needs to be sparked. And even if you get shooed away with, "I don't care, I'll be dead," or something like, "Let's not talk about that right now, sweetie. Let's wait." Things like that. Sparking that conversation and letting your loved ones know that you're ready to have that talk is important. I live my life as someone who is incredibly concerned about the future of our environment, and I want my death to serve that aim. I hope you'll think about how you can put a positive spin on your own mortality. Thank you.
Do her talk. So again, if anybody has to leave, it is 10 to 9 and we understand, so we'll give you a minute, but otherwise she's going to come out and just redo so that we can get a cleaner cap.
Hi again. So hopefully this goes better than last time, fingers crossed. So yeah, right.
So speaker live in 5, 4, 3.
When I was 8, I had my first existential crisis. I was in the car with my mom debating whether I wanted to be a writer or if I wanted to travel the world. In my mind, I couldn't do both. My mom just sort of looked at me strangely before saying, "Why don't you become a travel journalist?" The car went silent for a solid minute before I, ever so gracefully, replied, "That's a thing!" From that moment onward, I've been doing everything in my power to gain experience and opportunities to help me reach my goal. I've joined writing contests, public speaking clubs, student council, yearbook, drama, pageants, mental health awareness committee, basketball team, started volunteering, got a year-round job, became an honors student, and even wrote my first full-length book. As you can imagine, my life can be pretty chaotic at times. And just like 10 to 20% of Canadian youth, I suffer from mental illnesses. More specifically, anxiety and depression. So how do we balance a life full of once-in-a-lifetime opportunities while also maintaining our overall well-being? The idea came to me when I had someone ask if I was taking on too much and if I needed to drop a couple of things to prevent myself from becoming too stressed. I paused and realized that, no, I didn't. Although I do have days where I become super overwhelmed and everything seems to catch up on me, I have miraculously managed to do everything I mentioned earlier and still have time to hang out with my friends. The question that remains now is, how do I maintain this balance and still be sane? To oversimplify matters, it's all about two things. The first one is passion. There is not a single thing that I do not enjoy. I love my job and helping others and speaking out on matters that need to be discussed. I love pageants and performing and finding things to do at school. Ideally, we all end up in careers revolving around things that we love. So in the meantime, why not fill up our schedules with things that will look incredible on our future resumes while also being things that we currently love? And I'm sorry, but being from a small town isn't an excuse here. As a girl who comes from a ridiculously small school, grad class of 50 students, and it's in the middle of nowhere, trust me when I say that opportunities are there. They're in clubs and community events and connections through teachers and community leaders. And if you're motivated enough, things of your own creation. In 2017, my best friend and I came up with the idea to start a girls' support group in our community. We had noticed there was a ridiculously large lack of resources for students with mental illnesses. We started the group that summer, and it ran for an entire year, providing a safe place for girls to come to. Opportunities to do the things that you love are there. You just need to go out and find them. When we do this, we become more adaptable. In order to be successful in today's ever-evolving society, you need to be able to be determined, and you need to have the grit and motivation to get to where you want to be and prove to others that you deserve to be there. This is the foundation that is necessary for these sort of skills to grow. You learn things such as motivation, organization skills that help make these opportunities possible. These are all traits that we see within persistent leaders, a role that I think you'll find resonates inside anyone who follows these ideals. The second point is time management. Now, I know we all love to procrastinate. I myself am guilty. But being able to manage your time is an incredible skill that can take a lot of stress off of your shoulders. Take a look at your normal day and evaluate which parts of it you get the most work done or when you feel the most motivated. For me, it's between the times of 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. These are the times of day when you should be doing anything that you may have been avoiding. For the rest of your day, just go out and enjoy life, whether that be with a club, event, or a job. Just remember my first point and make sure that's something you love. Now comes the important part. Do all of this, but make sure you save at least an hour or two to just take care of yourself. Do what you have to do to be the best you. It could be as simple as showering or even just doing one of your favorite hobbies. Personal time is a priority and something that you deserve. If you have to, schedule that time in. On a normal day, I relax between 6 to 7 p.m. and 10 to 11 before I go to sleep. But on a crazy day, I usually only get in that hour before I go to bed. Notice how I still make sure I get that time in, though. This is where we paused last time, too. Haha. Sure, get that time in, though. When we are, no. Okay, got it. Okay. 3, 4, 3, 2. If you have to. Okay, so 5, 4, 3, 2. If you have to schedule this time, no, I just said that. That's what I just said. Right, okay, now we've got it. Okay, now it all makes sense in my head. Not to you guys, we're about to get that. Okay, so we're gonna go from what's in my head. So 5, 4, 3. If you've had a particularly chaotic or emotionally draining day, it is absolutely acceptable to just do nothing and focus on taking care of yourself. Remember that while seizing life's opportunities is important, nothing should come before your own health. Without a healthy mentality, it is easy for things to fall apart and become overwhelming. There have been numerous times in my life where I've tried to juggle my busy lifestyle while also battling the stigma around depression. Due to society painting people with mental illnesses as introverts who are isolated and brooding, and for a lack of better words, emo, I didn't think that I could have one. I'm extroverted, I'm involved, I'm motivated. Therefore, I can't be sad. That's not who I am. But when I heard someone giving their testimony about their journey with depression, I suddenly realized, wow, I can relate to this. So I went to my guidance counselor and I told her about my symptoms, only excluding the fact that I was having suicidal thoughts on a daily basis. And she told me that I was just extremely sad. I felt unmotivated, replaceable, and alone, despite being surrounded by an army of friends who were there supporting me. With the belief that I was too outgoing to be depressed, I didn't reach out for help, and I attempted to continue living life as I always had. The result was always the same. Panic attacks, quiet tears, and deadly thoughts would consume me whenever I had a weak moment and life would change or there was the slightest piece of negativity. I wouldn't have survived those times if it wasn't for my friends and family who were an incredible support group for me. When it comes to maintaining your health and your sanity when taking on the world, you need to know yourself and make sure that you are okay. Find a routine coping mechanism or activity that works best for you. These should all be reevaluated every now and then to make sure that they still work for you and where you are now. Knowing yourself is one of the best tools that you can have. You need to be able to recognize what makes you happy and add more of that to your life while minimizing what adds to your symptoms. I can't emphasize enough just how important this is when it comes to maintaining your health. Kyle Francis says that in order to live your full life, to meet your full potential, you can't live life in comfort. You've got to take some risks. And I believe as though that summarizes my thoughts on this subject perfectly. You can't realize who you truly are until you've uncovered every single one of the pieces that you are composed of. And you can't do that until you break free of all the restraints that are holding you back and fully embrace all of life's challenges. Sometimes I have people ask me how I knew what I wanted to do at such a young age, to which I always say that I simply followed my heart and did what made me happiest. When I say this, sometimes I get asked, okay, well, how do I know what makes me happiest? How do I find my passion? Well, I hate to tell you, but you can't do it by staying at home and binge watching Netflix. You have to go out and try new things, shake up your normal routine, and explore. When we do this, you'll discover things about yourself that you didn't even know existed. This is how we take charge of our futures and discover our best selves. By sustaining a balance of things that are new and a routine that keeps us grounded. Every day should be different from the last. When we are surrounded by things that make us happy and therefore help us maintain a positive mindset, and we know ourselves better than anything else in our lives, there is nothing that can stop us. We are constantly growing as people. We must evolve with society. Sustaining this cycle of personal growth is the key to a joyful life and the key to unlocking the true you. Thank you.